Today we're going to talk about the best uses for a personal loan, when you should utilize one and when you should absolutely stay away from a personal loan because they're not always the best solution. So make sure you give us a like, subscribe, and hang out for the good information. All right, so just as a preface, I guess, personal loans, if you don't know what they are, is basically just a loan that's not really tied to much, right? So it's based on your credit, your personal assets, your ability to repay, but it's not tied to a house. It's not tied to a car per se. Like some of them may ask for collateral, but the vast majority of them don't. So it's just there. Now, the interest rates are higher with these and the repayment terms are short, so the payments can be fairly high for the amount you're borrowing, but they can be very useful depending on how you utilize them. So today we're going to talk about some best uses for them and where it makes sense, as well as some opportunities where it may not necessarily make sense. So probably the biggest use for personal loans is consolidating debt. Right? So let's say you have a credit card with a $2,000 balance and a credit card with a $4,000 balance and a credit card with a $1,000 balance. You could go get a $7,000 personal loan, pay all three of them off, and now you've got one fixed interest rate for paying those down in a set time frame with set monthly payments without having to have three different payments you got to make to three different places. And by the way, credit cards probably still have a higher interest rate on average than most personal loans, right? Another good use would be a home improvement product or project. So rather than having to like refinance or get a HELOC just to do a renovation, if you have a somewhat small renovation that you're looking to do your house, then you could utilize a personal loan to do it and pay it off. So, a good opportunity for if you're just doing like a kitchen remodel or a bathroom remodel or something that's not overly intense, and especially beneficial if it's something where you're going to do it and then sell the house or refinance after the fact, because in both of those scenarios you'll be able to just pay off the personal loan right away, so your interest paid on it will actually be fairly minimal for the amount of money you borrowed, because if you pay it for the full term you might end up paying a decent amount of interest, but again, not the end of the world as long as you're doing updates that are actually adding value to the project. And what you want to make sure is that if you're using a personal loan, you want to do the math for how much value those things are going to do to the house and ensure that that is more than the total amount borrowed plus interest that you're going to pay for the loan to make it a wise financial decision. We kind of already covered this, but refinancing an existing loan. So this could be consolidating credit cards, or if you have a loan out there and you can get a better rate or better pay down period or better, as long as it's a better decision for you financially to pay off or refinance, then go for it. Medical bills, right? Nobody likes medical bills, and if you're still in the military, you probably don't have to deal with them. Thank God. TRICARE, is wonderful in that regard. But every now and then, people run into very expensive medical bills, and so a personal loan can be a good way to pay that down over time rather than having to come up with $20,000 or $30,000 right away. All right, the next one up is emergencies, right? It makes sense that a personal loan would make sense for if you have some kind of a really big emergency that you need to pay for and deal with, because obviously it was unexpected, but that's kind of the importance behind having a emergency fund just to cover your ass in case something like that comes up. All right, now something that a lot of people use these for is things like weddings, vacations, discretionary items and expenses. I would definitely recommend that you don't do that, right? If you can't afford $30,000 for a wedding, you probably don't need to put $30,000 on a 10% interest personal loan debt that you're going to be paying out the wazoo for just to have that $30,000 wedding. You should have a wedding that you're able to afford, right? Same with vacations, because you're not going to want to pay that off after you take the vacation, but you're going to have to. Same with other discretionary items. Like if they're not adding or helping you financially, it's probably the wrong move. So what you want to know is you want to look at how much the loan is going to cost you and make sure that it's actually being utilized to help you earn a return or help you lower a payment. So prime example, I've now used two personal loans. The first one was a $50,000 personal loan, and it was, I forget the interest rate, but it was like 10% or something. I mean, it wasn't the cheapest thing in the world. And I used it to flip a house. And ironically, this is the house My first house flip that I was doing out of state, my contractor, I've probably told this story a few times, but essentially I lost $30,000 on the house. When I sold the house, I wasn't able to pay off the personal loan entirely, so I was paying on it for a long time, right? So had everything gone right and the budget been on track and the contractor done what he was supposed to do instead of just literally robbing me blind, then it would have been a great use of the personal loan. I would have turned a profit and I would have paid it off almost immediately and it would have been great. Instead, 3 years later, I was still paying on it and I'd made some damage, some dent, but not as much as I would have liked to. And so what I ultimately ended up doing, because I think that was a 10-year payoff period, is I paid off a decent chunk of it at once and then I refinanced it. And then I refinanced it into a different personal loan at I believe a 3-year payoff. And I think the interest rate on that was actually 1 or 2% higher, but because of the much shorter period, payoff period, the principal pay down on it on the amortization schedule was much higher. And so my monthly payment went up like $200 a month, but it'll be paid off, effectively like 6 years earlier, 5 years earlier. And my total interest paid on it was gonna be like $10,000 less. So, that made sense. And, honestly, I'll probably pay that off in full this month when I sell one of these properties. But, so I've used a personal loan a couple times, but you need to make sure that it's something that has the ability to earn you a good return or save you a lot of money. Because if you use that personal loan and then something goes wrong, like my house flip, then you're gonna be stuck paying for it for a while. So hope this helps. Best and worst practices for using the VA loan, and make sure you liked and subscribed. Have a great day.